Welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm David Pavey. A few years ago, when we were working in England, my wife Nancy developed painful osteoarthritis at the base of both thumbs. Bone on bone doesn't feel good. So our doctor referred us to an orthopedic specialist, Dr. Paul Smith, who performed surgery to replace the trapezium bone at the base of her right thumb with a silicone prosthesis. He and his colleague were the only two surgeons in the world doing this particular operation. We were in the right place at the right time for her right thumb. After one night in the hospital, Nancy came home armed with a massive bandage and 2 pages of instructions regarding how to take care of the wound. 3 weeks later, back in the hospital, a nurse removed the bandages slowly and then very carefully. She took out the stitches, revealing an angry red scar. Oh, Nancy was so happy to be free from the arthritic pain, but not too excited about the ugly scar. But then Dr. Smith assigned her to a therapist who devoted a lot of time to the scar. She showed Nancy how to massage it, how to untether it, how to whiten it, so that with time, the scar, instead of being something to hide, became a thing of beauty, something to show to others as evidence of healing. 6 months later, Nancy underwent the same surgery on her left hand. Again, 3 weeks later, she returned to the hospital to have the bandage removed and the stitches taken out. As we were sitting in the waiting room before the procedure, Nancy smartly dressed in a Scottish kilt, in walked another patient, a tall, elegant woman, also dressed in a kilt, set off with a navy blue jacket and a colourful scarf. The two women remarked on the similarity of their kilts, of course, but they soon began to compare notes regarding their hand surgery. The tall woman, whose scar was fresh and rather angry, had never before seen anyone who had had the same surgery and was afraid that her hand would always wear an ugly scar. While protecting her left hand, still heavily bandaged, Nancy held out her right hand to show off her scar from her first surgery, the scar having settled down now well after 7 months. Scrutinizing Nancy's little hand, the tall woman couldn't believe her eyes because she couldn't even see the scar until she got close. She became really excited as it gave her hope that her scar would settle down too. Think of scars as signs of healing, which glorify God who has brought us through this difficult experience. Ambroise Paré, the 16th century physician to the kings of France, famously declared, "Je pensais, mais Dieu guérit." I bound up the wound, but God healed it. Yes, our scars remind us that it is God who heals. In his book, Some Things I Have Learned Since I Knew It All, Jerry Cook, a pastor of a large church in Oregon, tells the story of his heart surgery and how his scars blessed a visitor. Sometime after the event, he received the visit of a man who was fearfully facing the prospect of his own bypass surgery. "Pastor, I'd like to see your scars," the man said shyly. Jerry took off his shirt, and the man gently traced with his finger the violet scar that ran down his chest vertically. The visitor continued, "The doctor says the most painful part of the operation will be the surgery on my leg. They're going to take veins out of my calf to use in my heart bypass. May I see your leg, please?" Jerry rolled up his trousers. The man got down on his knees, and without shame, he put his hands on Jerry's leg, tracing the scar with his fingers. When he rose to his feet, there were tears in his eyes. "Thank you. Now I have hope, he said. Yes, scars are signs of healing. Scars are signs of hope. Another anecdote concerning scars comes to mind. Pastor Jamie Buckingham, author of Look Out World, I'm Me, recounts the following. One day my daughter Sandy was crying. She was 8 months pregnant and concerned about her shape. I'm afraid I'll explode, she said. No, Sandy, replied her mother, you won't explode. Your skin will stretch and eventually return to normal. But there may be scars. Then Jackie, Sandy's mother, pulled her clothes up and down right there in the kitchen to show her daughter her waist and abdomen. After 5 children, she said, I have some stretch marks. She ran her fingers along the edges. I call them my love marks, she said. Reaching out her hand towards her daughter, she said, touch them. Sandy did so. They look funny, said her mother, but every time I see my stretch marks, I think of you and Bonnie and Tim and Robin and Bruce. Scars are signs of healing. Love marks. After his resurrection, Jesus said to his disciples, look at my hands and feet. It is I myself. Touch me. Touch me and see. A ghost does not have flesh and bones as you see I have. Later he said to doubting Thomas, put your finger here. See my hands? Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe. Jesus understood our need to touch his scars, his love marks. They remind us of his resurrection, and they give us hope. Most of us have scars, but we often go to great trouble and sometimes expense to hide them with clothes and cosmetics, thinking they're ugly signs of imperfection. But scars are signs of healing. Scars glorify God who has brought us through. Many, if not most of us, have not just physical scars, but emotional scars too. The result of difficult experiences, sometimes due to our own bad choices, but often due to hard times, broken relationships, disappointments that came out of the blue. Hopefully God has healed our wounds, but the scars remain to remind us. We're not proud of our scars, physical or emotional. But we don't need to be ashamed of them either. Scars are evidence of healing. And sometimes we should be willing to show our scars to those who could be helped by our stories. Seeing Nancy's scar was a huge blessing to the tall lady in the waiting room. See your scars in a new light today and use them to give hope to others. And thank you once again for tuning in to Village Church Connections.